Yeah, me too. Yep.
Yeah, I got you. Opening music. Something that has a good beat to it. Just be keeping your ears open for something.
I totally forgot about that until you said that.
That like you hear it and you're like, hey, with Glenn behind it,
I'll make sure I do that because I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, and I'm going to start out with The Power of Love because it's just got that dun, dun, and that intro that gives you an opportunity to talk before lyrics come in.
Okay.
And then the rest of the music I did, I've got some Phil Collins, some Boston, some Bruno Mars.
You got some spots lined up from Liz, right? Okay.
Lined up to Barbara and Liz's.
Good.
Spots open. All right. Let's do this. I'm going to close this door. You cool enough in there?
I'm good.
It's a Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock, and here is the Blake Sloan Show with Blake Sloan of the Sloan Realty Group. He's one of the top agents in the world. He's been featured in Forbes magazine, The Wall Street Journal, Realtor magazine, Fox News, NBC, ABC, and many other national publications. You find him at blakesloan.com. Here he is, Blake Sloan.
Good afternoon, everyone. Got awesome show. Tons of great information. Our third straight week here. And it's been a crazy week in real estate. Like a crazy week in real estate. Just a few things. Number one, we found a live grenade in a property. Yeah, I got that same property. We found a human skull in that property. Once the police went to deal with the live grenade, they found a human skull in the property. So we had to they made us stop doing anything in there, and they went to, because we were clearing out the property for someone, past client. They wanted to sell it, and their relative actually wanted to sell it. A lot of stuff inside there, and those two things. And so that's kind of on hold right now to figure out for them to go through and identify. Crazy week. Then this past week we had a couple get married in our lobby of our office, who's also a past client of ours, which is interesting. And I didn't know this until my team told me. This is the second wedding we've had in our lobby this year. Crazy, right? So it's a wild world in real estate, man. And that's one thing that I forgot about this. Just this morning, one of Duncan, our team, who's an amazing teammate, he's like our photographer, videographer. He went to pick up an abandoned parrot this morning, an African some parrot that was abandoned in let's say, I think by some renters or something. And we're taking that in. Susan, our team, is going to be taking that parrot, which is crazy, right? So it's a crazy week of real estate, man. You can't make this stuff up. And we do a lot of volume. So we've been putting 20 to 25 properties a week under contract consistently, and we're just a team model, which is awesome. But that's just one thing that's crazy. So we'll talk about that. Just kind of give you guys a little insight here in a few minutes of just some of those crazy stories we've seen. And we've seen it all. And that's one thing that, when you do a lot of volume, there's not a whole lot that you haven't experienced, right? If you haven't experienced a grenade in your property or a skull, you ain't doing anything, right? So we'll talk about that in a minute. We have their brand new micro market numbers in, which are very interesting. The micro market, this is the first time we've done it on this show. I've been doing that for years and years on another show I have. And what it is every other week I want to look at what's the micro market in your zip code doing, aka what's my neighborhood. That's what people care about, right? They don't really care what it's doing in Lourdes if you live in Surfside, and vice versa. And so I want to make sure that, like I mentioned last week, I have one goal for this show, and that's to give data and information to help you make the best decisions with your largest assets, right? aka real estate. So we'll talk about that. We'll recap the overall, macro market, which is the whole Grand Strand. Their numbers are still great. There was 3 key pieces, though, that were interesting. We'll talk about in a minute overall from out there. And we'll talk about the last part. I didn't have time last week to get to the 4 main problems and pains that people are facing right now when they're selling their house, because I'm just seeing so many mistakes. And I'll talk about specifically a horror story, a very well-known attorney here in the area. I saw him list his house this week, and just some major mistakes that were done that cost a lot of equity. And so it doesn't matter how affluent they are or if they're brand new, I'm seeing the same mistakes over and over and over. And it has to do with the pace of the market right now. The pace is so fast where over the past few months and really years, it's been picking up, and there's so many mistakes I see. So I want to talk about that as well. And those are costing me, like I mentioned, $20, $30, $40, and $50,000. And it's to the point where I'm seeing this 5 and 6 days a week, because again, remember, we're on both sides of these transactions. So we have a whole team of buyers agents who represent buyers on the buy side, listing side. We represent a lot of people on the listing side, this other house. And so all those things matter in a very, very big way. Also, we have a special guest today, the second half of the show, Mr. Alex Pratt. He's been on my team for a number of years, and he's like our head training and talent development and kind of sales manager. And he's really going to talk about the culture, about what we do and how we operate. And it's something that's really important for us. We'll talk about here in a few minutes. Also, as usual, some amazing, amazing success stories. Our team has been absolutely crushing it, burning the candle at both ends. And we'll talk about that here in the next few minutes as well. It's crazy, right? So we'll talk about the craziness of that here in a few minutes in that aspect. And so that's one thing that I guess, to in a minute, if overall for the, I guess, the single most important variable that determines, fair success for a home seller is super important. But Glenn, do you want to get something first real quick?
Yeah, for any new listeners, just to give you an update on who Blake is. It's an amazing story. Industry leaders have dubbed him the real estate whiz kid. He's been featured in Forbes magazine, the Wall Street Journal, NBC, Realtor magazine, other national publications. He's personally endorsed by Sean Hannity and Glenn. Those by itself is quite the accomplishment, but all of them together is unprecedented. Last week, we learned a little bit more about you and how your team works, and how a good portion of your success has come from the trades you've developed to help both buyers and sellers here in our market. Can you recap quickly for anyone new to the show what those are exactly, and how quick overview of how they work?
Yes, this is super important. Again, it's the why behind why I do this show, why we're doing the show, just because we see over and over so many horror story after horror story after horror story. I've been seeing this for years. And so like I mentioned, I've been doing a different radio show for 10 years now. And I noticed a long time ago, there was this same thing that happened over and over and over. The number one mistake that I see anyone make in terms of real estate, and that mistake is they make the mistake of thinking that all real estate agents are the same. It could not be further from the truth, right? Just like any doctor, any lawyer, you're charged with a crime you did not commit. You do not want some part-time attorney who practices, right, only a couple days a year, or, just some random person who doesn't practice that. You want the absolute best, most aggressive attorney who specializes in that type of law, who can defend you in your situation, right? Why would you ever accept anything less for your largest asset? And people do it every single day. Even the horror story I mentioned a minute ago, very well known, attorney just did the same exact mistake, and I see it over and over, and we'll share about that. And so what I did is I noticed that there is just a way to do things differently. I noticed what happened was it always came down to these very specific variables. And so the single most important variable that determines your failure or success as a home seller comes to one thing only. That thing is the agent you choose, period. Doesn't have anything to do with the wall colors, the grass color, how much grass you got. It comes down to how does your agent execute when it comes down time to get their property sold. And specifically, there's 118 different variables from A to Z to get a property sold. How do I know that? Because we slowed down, mapped it out, and figured out exactly how many variables have to happen from A to Z to get a property sold. The problem is most agents have no clue what they are. They're just doing the 3 Ps. 1, they promise the world to get listing. 2, they put it to the MLS. And 3, they pray that someone else brings you a buyer. Meanwhile, they're in your neighbor's house down the street trying to get a listing just so they can survive and pay their bills next month. And you see this over and over and over again. And so what I did, I said, look, there's got to be a better way. We looked at what people did outside of real estate and brought that into real estate and created a system that's proven and repeatable, that creates maximum leverage at every single point. And so we look at that, and the best way to summarize that is it's like stacking the dominoes. So I create a gap at point 1, create a gap at point 2 and point 3, and over the 118, what it does is stacks up and creates a massive competitive advantage for our client, just like any marathon, right? You watch the marathon take off, shotgun start, everyone starts running. Everyone looks the same in the beginning, but all of a sudden what you watch happen is everyone starts to spread out. And some finish 2 and 3 hours ahead of everyone else. It's the same exact thing that we do in terms of the home sale, because you have to create that leverage and that differentiation there. And so the system I designed is called the Guaranteed Sold System. It's the only proven system, sells twice as fast and for up to 20% more money than traditional methods. And it works very, very, very well. And I'm telling you, it's so important to have. And I'll talk about this right now. Why it's so important to bring this up is everyone's talking about how hot the market is, how hot the market is, how hot the market is. And that's true. And anyone can sell a house right now, and you can sell a house yourself. And the best analogy I've had lately to really kind of share this, and I mentioned it briefly on last week's show, was that you can take a classic Corvette and you can put it in the Walmart parking lot and you can sell it. And it'll probably get sold for a decent amount of money. But if you take the same classic Corvette and get more specific exposure to people who like classic Corvettes, guess what happens? You get more eyeballs who want to pay more money for it. You drive up demand for that. And so if you take the same classic Corvette, you put it in Walmart parking lot, but you also put it in every Corvette enthusiast magazine, every Corvette enthusiast website, fan group, and everything else. Guess what you do? You drive up demand, and in turn, you drive up prices. And what I find is what every agent's doing right now, they're taking your house and they're just putting it to the Walmart parking lot. And so you deserve more yourself to have your house, right? Your sacred space that you developed and worked so hard to get value in, much more than having some agent just drop it off in the Walmart parking lot and hope to get you the most amount of money. And so that system designed to get you the most amount of money, the harder equity you have. And then we'll talk about that here in a second.
I tell you, Blake, something I've learned from you, it doesn't matter if your real estate agent is a nice person. She's so sweet, or she looks good, or he looks good. The business, this is business.
100%.
This is not about friendship. This is about maximizing your dollars at sale time or getting the property you want at the best price.
Yes, and there's both, right, where you got to care. But people make that huge mistake and we hear this all the time. We train on this. People, they were so nice, but you deserve more as a homeowner than just to have a nice agent. You deserve someone who cares about you, who's willing to tell you the truth, and who will go deep and make sure they fight for you to get the most amount of money. Because here's the thing: if they're too nice, they're not going to fight for your hard-earned equity like they should.
Let's take a break, Blake. We'll be right back with more of the Blake Sloan Realty Show here on Talk.
How's it going, buddy? So we'll do a quick market update, and then we'll just bring you in as a guest. Is that cool? So probably about 5 or 10 minutes from now.
No problem.
Why would you go to anyone else to list?
They do it a little different here, so he does it in segments.
Cool. It is like mind-boggling because Blake Sloan knows how to market your home to get an offer fast. He guarantees that it will be sold.
Sure, it's like 10-minute segment, so we'll have one more, and then you go with that.
Cool.
You gotta be back at 4.
That are going to give you your hard-earned equity. Don't leave it behind by dismissive real estate agents that just want to close the deal.
Good. All right. It's not the Bellamy Law, right?
Blake Sloan Realty.
What's that?
They're the
No.
ones who are going to
Still
work
can't hurry up.
very hard to get you the most money possible for your home. And it is a seller's market, but don't be fooled. A fast sale doesn't mean you're going to get equity the way you should. It just means you're going to sell it fast and that realtor will move on to the next listing. What Blake Sloan does, he takes every single listing to heart and markets the heck out of it so that you get the most money for your home. If you want to learn more, visit him online at blakesloan.com or call 843-808-SOAP.
All right, so we'll go into the market update real quick, and then that'll be that 10-minute segment, and I'll bring him in.
Okay.
Is that cool?
Yeah. Give me 1 minute here.
It's hot, isn't it?
Well,
Yeah.
All right.
Am I bringing this in or you?
You up to you, man. What do you want?
You can. That's cool with me.
All right. It ain't no problem, man. I do not. All right. Where am I going to go here with this one? Bring her in. Yep, here we go. All right. You ready, Freddie?
Yes, sir.
Welcome back to the Blake Sloan Real Estate Show. Here's the man of the hour. It's Blake Sloan.
Welcome back. Just to get to the number one question I always get, and really, what's the market doing? What's the market doing? I can't go to the grocery store, to an event. Let's get you the information because it's so dynamic right now. We'll talk about the quick macro market, just to recap for anyone, and we'll get into the micro market, which is what's my zip code doing? What's my area doing? Quick recap for anyone that missed last week's show. Sales are up big time month versus month. So we always like to compare how last month do, in this example, May versus previous May. Numbers are up 82.3%, but that number is not fully accurate, in my opinion, based on the market, because last May was the absolute worst month of the year due to the lockdown, right? So that's skewed a little bit, but it's still up tremendously. One of the best Mays that we've had ever, which is really good. But the overall way to look at it is I like to watch month versus month. We are seasonal here. And so last month for single family resale homes, which is like the backbone, right? The blood kind of the market, because that's what most sales are. Last month, there were 678 home sales. The interesting, I want to say shocking, but intriguing numbers were it's declined by about 100 home sales from April. So we saw 100 home sale decline from April to May. So give you a quick example, like back in March, 767 home sales. In April, 771. This last month, 678. So almost 100 home sales less. And there's a couple factors of that. One's going to be inventory. There's just less homes for sale right now, but there may be a little bit of buyer fatigue setting in, because one of the main kind of things we've watched here is median price, because median price also dropped last month very slightly, not much, but again, there's three key numbers and metrics that I'm looking at to kind of really, I guess, help advise the next few months. Median price up 28.2% from the same month last year, which is awesome. Right now, 291,000, which is great, but the month before, which was in April, it was 299,700. So we lost about, $8,000 ish, $8,300 in regards to median price. That also has to do with what property you're selling. So if people tend to move more inland because there's less available on the coast, that also that a little bit, which is why we like to dig into the micro market, which is super important. So the great news though, average sale price still smoking hot, up 30.9% at 388,833, which is amazing, because that means you got a whole lot more equity in your pocket than you did last. So if you go all the way back to like October 2020, even, it was at 312. Now you're up to 388. So almost $100,000 extra dollars in average sale price here for just the Grand Strand, which is super cool. If you go back to January 2019, it was at 253. Right now we're at 388. So very, very good numbers. We just hit a new record in regards to average sale price for Myrtle Beach, which is great news. I mean, it's crazy to see that. Like I said, I remember when I was doing a long time ago, monthly updates, it was like 155. So great news there. The one thing driving that is inventory. We are in an inventory crisis right now. Inventory is down 76.2% at 1.0 months. Last week, it was scraping around 0.9 months, the last 2 weeks, really. We have a few more homes in the market right now, which is helpful, but we're still down almost 80%. So you can see how that affects the amount of properties closed just because there's less out there. There's two things driving that. One is, again, some buyer fatigue. They're just getting a little bit tired, saying, hey, look, we're going to put our search on hold, and we're maybe just going to hold off a little bit. On two, there's just not anything out there to buy that they like. And that's one thing that we're seeing. We have seen a little bit of loosening in the past week or so. We track the daily numbers of how many single family homes are on the market at any one time that are, we call them detached, meaning they're stick built. They're a resale home, and they're in Horry County. They've been averaging in the 380s every single day. So it was just super low, right? We have over 300,000 people just in Horry County already. And so today we just hit not a new high, but there's 401 homes for sale. So roughly 10 more on average we're seeing, which is great. That has to do with some people finally coming around who got their vaccines. They feel safer now. They're okay with showing their house. They're ready to move on with life. And that's one thing that's really helpful as well. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Really quick, for anybody into condos, condo sales last month are also smoking hot. If you're looking at condo sales for them, they're up 174.3%, but don't track that because condos took even more beating last year because you couldn't even go inside the building. Remember the lockdown, you couldn't walk into a condo hotel in the ocean. They locked it out at the lobby. And so we couldn't even show properties. So that was an absolute very, very low May of last year. Right now, 830 sold last month. April was 823 and 808 the month before that. So it's still tracking up. And the reason is people who can't afford houses are now moving to condos. And so they were looking at houses, but affordability has risen, and they're not able to do that. So that's just something that's super important to watch and see. Prices, average price up 28.5% at $197,632, which is awesome. So condos about to cross that $200,000 threshold, which is awesome. And again, it matters what type of condo you have. It could be oceanfront, studio, or we call them like, an efficiency unit, or you have a 4-bedroom on the ocean or a 4-bedroom inland on a golf course. It could be anything. So the details matter there in terms of what type of property you have. But also what we're also seeing is an inventory crisis. Inventory for condos, meaning the amount of condos for sale right now, is down 78.6%. So huge drop, right? So that's just something that's crazy. Only 1.2 months of inventory. And for anyone that's new to the show, that is a hypothetical equation of how do you gauge what the current run rate is of properties at any one time. They do that through inventory 8K months of supply. And so a healthy market is anything 6 months roughly. So there's 6 months inventory. It's healthy. Anything above 6 months, I mean, it's a buyer's market. They have the advantage. Anything less than 6 months is a seller's market. They have the advantage. More buyers than sellers, right? Which creates more demand. And so what's happening is you get all the way down to 1.0 months and 1.2 months. That's what we're calling a super seller's market, meaning that you have a huge advantage as a home seller right now compared to just how it's been historically. And so you want to take advantage of that for sure. One thing driving this though, and one thing to look out for, it's kind of I guess, I want to say an asterisk to the numbers of this week is interest rates. Huge jump in interest rates last week. If you remember last week's show, it was 3.08%. Great rates. We talked about, you and I talked about how you're below 3, right? When you locked in. And so right now it jumped up to 3.25% just in 1 week, 7 days. Again, if you saw some reports, huge inflation, the highest, reported number of inflation, I think month versus month on history, right? And so that obviously affects the bond market, which affects interest rates. And so we've seen that jump up. And so I do think as we continue to see some of that continued, inflation there, you're going to see rates go up. So if any homeowners are on the fence, make sure you take advantage of that, make that move. You think about moving laterally, either up or down or sideways, however it is. We get a lot of move down buyers who are just downsizing. We also get a lot of move up buyers who are growing families. And so we're very good at both. We've really mastered the downsizing because we really help people maximize equity and find the right property for them too. But be aware of that, because as rates go up, what that means is less people can afford your house. And so someone who could afford your house before as a $400,000 house now cannot afford that. And so we'll talk about that here going forward, in a few minutes. And so the one thing I'll just get to really quick is a micro market. I'm going to breeze through some of this really quick, just the key areas, just from a time standpoint. I'll come back to them at the end, just so we can get to our guest in a minute. But May, Myrtle Beach to 29572, 29577. Sales are up 28.4%, which is awesome, right? Year to date up 28.9. Median price last month in Myrtle Beach up 10.6%, which is great news there. 355, 985. They're like the blood, the backbone of the whole market, because that's just where everyone thinks initially to look. But the two hottest though were North Myrtle Beach and Surfside, two of the hottest in the whole area. 29582. Sales in North Myrtle Beach last month up 96.7%. Huge jump, right? And again, it has to do with the lifestyle there. People are wanting those more little slower paced areas. Year-to-date sales in North Myrtle Beach up 64.8%, which is awesome. Prices up 34.3% just last month alone. Last May, 342, 450. Right now, 460 is equity, over $100,000 jump there for people in the median price range. And so again, if you're a homeowner, you probably have a lot more equity than you think you do. And that's why you can't compare your market value to the overall grand strand, because there's some pockets that are hotter than others. And it's important that your agent understands and pays for and has access to the data that can help you make good decisions, because that's super important there as well. Huge increase in condo sales. Condos in North Myrtle Beach are up 169% month versus month, which is huge, from 58 to 156. And the pricing though up 53.5%. So 158 to 242. Wow. And that's just, again, supply and demand. People are coming in pumping hundreds of millions of dollars right now from the Northeast into these areas, which is huge. One thing too, I'll get to the other hot one really good is Carolina Forest. They're up 52.6% last month. Median price up 13.1% from 304 to 344. And they have 73% less houses for sale than the same time last year. And so we have tons and tons of areas that are super hot. I'm going to get to really quick the Surfside area. Last part, check this out. Surfside year to date up 62.4% for home sales in Surfside. My mom lives there. I grew up there on 10th Avenue, and she's still there. And she's been telling me, hey, there's so many people in Surfside right now, too many golf cars, people. So lots of people coming in there. Last month alone, prices in Surfside up 24.1% from 235 to 291. And what that means is you have a lot more equity than you think you do. And so check that out. And these numbers are all in arrears. So right now, live, real time, you probably have more than that. And it needs an expert who can guide you to help you understand where to put that money, how far can you push it, and really how do you create a strategy to maximize that overall. How are we looking on time-wise?
Pretty good. But with such a low inventory, your weekly buyer lead update.
Yes.
Can we get to that right now?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Impressive.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that's one thing. Go ahead.
Blake showed me his current count of buyers who are signed up searching on his home for homes daily on his website. 62,146 active home buyers on BlakeSloan.com.
Yes, and that's our thing that we have tremendous amounts of money we spend online. This is a question I get a lot too, and this is really an example of the show. I'm going to bring our guest here in a second to kind of talk about that. Is that I get this question, like, what makes you different than anybody else? And so what makes us different is I'm advertising for buyers before you ever call me. We outspend the average agent 100 to 1 from a marketing standpoint. How is that? Because our business model is very unique and it's designed to give us that advantage. And so we have 20 plus buyer experts, we call them, and I'm spending money tens of thousands of dollars every month driving traffic. And so what happens is we get buyers from all over the country and internationally. Our team works with them, and their job is to bring them to our listings to sell them. Why is that? Well, because that's what you hired us to do, is actually sell the property, not just put it to MLS. And here's the deal. I'm in business to make money, right? That's what I'm here for. And so I'm here to deliver with excellence. And in turn, the byproduct of that is that. And so we'll talk about kind of how we do that with our team. But again, like Glenn mentioned, we're 60 plus thousand buyers, 62,144. And right, these are real people with a username, password, account. These aren't like hits. These are people who are actually real buyers that are looking. And the problem is there's 401 active homes right now. And so you can see what our problem is. And the cool part is we have a technology we developed. Take any new listing, aka your listing, your house, and it takes those 62,000 buyers and reverse interest based on a previous search pattern, who the most likely buyer for your property is based on what their interactions have been doing online. And so we can score them. And not only have the technology to score them, we have the ability through the team model to follow up with those buyers and match them up with your property, which is a heck of a lot more efficient than some agent taking some picture on their cell phone and popping it to the MLS, right?
Makes you different.
100%.
That's what makes you different. That's what makes you my real estate agent.
Yes, and I love it. That's one thing I'll talk about, man. And is Alex's mic on? Alex, you here? What's up?
It is not.
There he is. What's up, man?
How's it going today?
So this is Mr. Alex Pratt, and he's been with us for multiple years now. And he kind of leads our team from the talent development standpoint, culture standpoint, training standpoint, and really kind of director of sales for us. And really, when we're talking about that team, that difference, you know, what's been your experience and how we operate, our intensity, and really how it separates from the average agent out there?
It's visible when you meet an agent of ours. I mean, we operate completely differently. Our agents are trained to go shopping for buyers. So in the standpoint of the average agent who's going to talk to a buyer a little bit, pick out a bunch of homes that they like, what we're going to do is actually narrow down the criteria for the buyer and go shopping for them based on what's available inventory-wise, and even getting creative and finding things that may not necessarily be on the market. We found things in incredible ways for buyers that they didn't even know about and that other agents didn't even know about.
Which is cool, and we'll talk about that. Let's take a quick break, Glenn, and we'll come right back and talk about that.
Folks, if you're thinking about selling your home, it's probably worth more now than it ever has been before. Call Blake Sloan. Go see him. www.blakesloan.com. We'll be right back.
So I didn't realize there's they have to do it in segments based on here.
No problem.
So I didn't know, like the other one you go straight through, you know.
That's fine.
So we'll just come right back to that. You should have time there, right?
No problem.
All right, we'll pick back up on that, and then we'll kind of run on that part.
Yeah, man, I wish I could sell my house right now because I know I would be really happy.
Where are you
I
at?
have nowhere to go.
That's a problem. Everybody's.
Hillsborough.
Oh yeah, that's a great neighborhood. Yeah, we sold a bunch of stuff there.
I love
Absolutely.
Hillsborough. So,
That's a great neighborhood, man.
I just know that, you know, I've been there 5 years and I've made a lot of money.
You brought great time, man.
Mm-hmm.
I have doubled my money.
It's crazy, man. I'm telling you. And that's a hot area right now too.
In 5 years.
Oh, you did great then.
I smoked them, man.
All right. So how are we looking on time? We got 20 minutes in, 30 minutes in?
We are 24 minutes in.
Okay.
10, 23, 24. We can do this next one for 10 minutes.
Okay.
And your last segment will take us up the rest.
Okay.
So I'll let you know when we're about 2 minutes out, and then you can wrap things up, or just, you know, whenever we go to break, and then I'll do a little math and we'll have the rest.
Cool.
And let's see if I really want to do this.
So about training and stuff too.
Yeah.
Boom. Here we go, guys. Oh, and welcome to the party.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Sound like you got a good voice for radio.
I do my best.
Yeah, I have a face for radio, but
That's fair.
There we go. Welcome back to the Blake Sloan Real Estate Show. Here is the man of the hour, Blake Sloan.
Welcome back. We got a great guest in the studio here, Mr. Alex Pratt. Like I said, our team leader here helps us from a culture standpoint, training standpoint. I was actually super fired up as usual coming in here. But I listened to this podcast by Dabo Sweeney and Ed Milet. And like I said, I'm just a big student of, I like any coach that's a great leader. And I was just blown away with some of the things he talks about and related to what we do. When he talks about the first thing he did at Clemson when he was a coach is that he made a statement too that they do the ordinary things in an extraordinary way. And I think that, breaking down those variables, that's what we do at our organization. And we're obsessive about it to the point of everything's a machine. We're super hard in training. Like Alex mentioned a minute ago, that our agents are different just from the pressure that we have, right? From a training standpoint, from a culture standpoint. What's your insight? Just, share with anybody that's listening, like, hey, look, what's it like there? What type of agents are they? Who are they? And kind of how they operate?
The avatar who I look for is somebody with a lot of intensity and a lot of drive to help people. And that's kind of the first thing I look for, not even necessarily long experience in the business, because we train so hard on fundamentals. While every other agent in the book is out there looking for the next shiny object and not even being to master that, we're hitting the fundamentals hard, which is exactly why we're able to execute at the level we're able to execute at.
And that's one thing that we live by, we say over and over, is that details matter, all these things. And again, we talk about the intensity, but like, Liz and I were talking about the show recently, love and care. Obviously, we have a goal to have, we call them just clients for life, right? So we don't want to just sell you a house. We want to be your real estate resource for life. And so we have a deep connection with our clients. We know everything about them and their kids and their kids' sports teams and all these things. And we stay in touch long-term. So if you need a plumber 6 months later or 12 months later, you don't need to go online. You just go call us and we'll hook you up with the absolute best one who you can rely on, right? And so we're very big about relationships.